They come for the quiet. Folks who visit the lake think about skinny dipping at midnight, late night fishing, and the hush that falls over water at 2 a.m. The kind of hush that feels like a held breath. But some of the quiets are secrets, and this lake keeps them the way a jealous guardian hides a treasure. Tonight you will hear three true stories, not urban legends stitched from rumor, but accounts that locals still whisper with a mixture of fear and reverence. They tell of a pale silhouette on black water, an entire campsite emptied while tents stood untouched, and a diver whose camera caught his last. Terrifying minutes below the surface that if you value sleep. Maybe skip the part about the girl seen at dusk. If you travel with friends, think twice before leaving the campfire. And if you're the kind of person who pries open sealed things, remember, some depths are sealed for a reason. Stay with me through all three. By the end, you'll know how the same lake held three different kinds of horror, each one shaped by ordinary choices. Visiting at dusk, camping overnight, and going down too deep. Story 1. The drowned girl. They say the lake does not give up what it takes. Old fishermen mutter that line with a kind of weary conviction, like men quoting scripture. The most enduring of their tales is about a girl named Hannah Ellis. She drowned in 1979, and yet her name has not gone under. If anything, the lake has kept it afloat, whispering it back to anyone reckless enough to swim at dusk. Hannah was 17. Photographs show her with long black hair, usually in braids, and eyes too dark for the flashbulb. She lived in the nearest town, and like many teenagers, she came to the lake with friends to drink cheap beer and dare each other to dive from the dock. One July evening, when the air hung heavy with gnats, Hannah slipped beneath the surface and never came back. The search teams combed the water for days. Divers found nothing. No body, no clothing, no jewelry. The lake swallowed her whole. What lingers is not just the mystery of a missing girl, but the reports that began almost immediately afterward. Within weeks, couples parking by the shoreline swore they heard a girl screaming, "Help me!" from the water. Anglers night fishing claimed to see a pale figure waist deep out by the reeds, hair dripping, clothes clinging to her. When they rowed closer, she would vanish with a splash too loud for any fish. The strangest detail is consistency. Witnesses described the same thing across decades. A thin girl in an outdated blouse, arms raised, eyes wide as if begging for rescue. Some said she looked relieved when they noticed her, as if she'd been waiting. Others said she looked angry, furious, even that they hadn't come sooner. One fisherman named Arlo Becker gave an interview in 1988, shaking as he spoke. He'd been out at dawn, the fog like milk, when he heard a voice calling. At first he thought it was a kid on the shore, but when he turned, the sound came from the water. She was standing there, he said, not swimming, standing. The water was up to her chest, but she wasn't sinking. Her mouth was open, but the scream didn't match the lips. He rowed hard for shore and never fished again. Teenagers, of course, treated the legend like a dare. Throughout the 90s, kids would bring tape recorders to the dock, hoping to capture Hannah's scream. Most got only static, but one tape, passed around school until the audio degraded, carried a faint, wet gasp followed by a whisper, "Come in." Then came the tragedy of 2002. A boy named Dylan Marr went swimming after sunset, despite warnings. His friends said he was joking about going to get Hannah's number. They watched him tread water, then go still. Someone shouted, and they swam toward him. By the time they reached the spot, there was only a ring of ripples. Dylan never resurfaced. Divers searched for a week. They never found him, just as they had never found Hannah. What fueled the story further was the testimony of Dylan's girlfriend. She said she saw him lift one arm as if reaching up to someone, not waving, but grabbing a hand. She swore she saw long hair trailing on the surface beside him for an instant before he went under. Locals began avoiding the lake at night. Even the bravest refused to swim after dusk. But reports kept coming. A couple in 2010 said their car stalled near the dock, and they saw a girl dripping wet walk out of the tree lean toward them. When the headlights hit her, she dissolved into spray. In 2015, two kayakers swore that something pulled them sideways with such force they almost capsized. When they steadied, a figure bobbed beside the boat, not floating, not treading, just there, head tilted, mouth open, eyes black in the moonlight. Perhaps the most chilling account came from a paramedic in 2019. He was called to the lake after a boating accident. As he treated an injured man on the dock, he said he saw a girl kneeling in the shallows, dripping, watching. When he blinked, she was gone. Later, reviewing body cam footage, there was a 3-second blur where the corner of the frame seemed to show wet hair plastered across a pale cheek. No official record acknowledges Hannah. The sheriff's department calls the drownings tragic accidents. But among locals, there's an unspoken rule: never say her name out loud by the water. Because if you do, you may hear the lake answer. Some believe Hannah isn't malicious, that she's trapped, replaying her last desperate moments, begging for help she'll never get. Others whisper she's jealous, luring new souls to keep her company below. Either way, they say if you see her, don't swim toward her. Don't throw her a rope. Don't acknowledge her at all, because the lake remembers. And what it has taken, it will not return. EP. Story 2. The Vanished Campers. The lake has always attracted weekend adventurers. Families bring tents, couples bring wine, and college kids bring guitars and cheap liquor. On summer nights, the shoreline glitters with little fires, each circle of flame marking a pocket of laughter in the dark. But one particular summer in 1998, the laughter stopped. There were 5 of them, 3 men and 2 women, students from a nearby university. They came with sleeping bags, coolers, and a camcorder. Locals remember seeing them that Friday evening at the bait shop, buying marshmallows and soda. They parked by the north trailhead, hiked the mile to the lake, and pitched camp on a rise overlooking the water. Other campers noted their fire that night, their music, their voices carrying across the still surface. By Saturday morning, all 5 were gone. The scene their neighbors found made no sense. The tents stood upright, their zippers closed. The fire had burned down naturally, leaving a bed of ash. The coolers were half full, and one of the sleeping bags was still warm. A radio played static. The camcorder sat on a tripod, battery drained, its red light still blinking. But there was no sign of the campers themselves. No footprints leading away, no scuffle, no trail of supplies. They had simply vanished. Sheriff's deputies conducted a search. Dogs sniffed around the site, but picked up nothing beyond the tents. Helicopters swept the woods. Divers scanned the water. Days passed with no discovery. The families begged for answers. The sheriff told the press it was an ongoing investigation, but privately he admitted he'd never seen such a clean disappearance. Then came the tape. When investigators played the recovered camcorder, they found 22 minutes of footage shot just after midnight. At first, it was the usual silliness, the group singing, passing the camera around, making faces. The fire crackled in the background. Around the 12-minute mark, something changed. One of the women froze mid-laugh, looking past the fire toward the water. "Did you hear that?" she asked. The camera turned shakily toward the lake. Black water, still as glass. Then, faint but audible, a child's giggle. The students grew quiet. One man shouted, "Who's there?" Another laughed nervously, saying it was just an echo. But the giggle came again, closer this time, overlapping with what sounded like a splash. The camera zoomed clumsily toward the reeds, catching only darkness. Then the microphone picked up something low and resonant, like a humming beneath the surface. The fire hissed as if doused by unseen hands. Someone cursed. The footage jolted, blurred, then steadied on the trees. The last clear frame showed the entire group standing at the shoreline, peering into the water. After that, only chaos, the lens shaking, voices overlapping, screams half swallowed by static. Then nothing. The tape ended. Authorities never released the footage publicly. Rumors spread through the town regardless. A deputy supposedly quit after watching it. A local reporter claimed to have seen a still frame of pale arms reaching out of the lake toward the campers. None of it could be verified. The case file remains unsolved. Years later, hikers passing the site began reporting strange phenomena. One couple swore they saw a fire burning on the rise, with figures moving around it, though no other campers had checked in that weekend. When they approached, the fire blinked out. Another group claimed to hear voices in the distance, laughter, clinking bottles, though the shoreline was deserted in 2011. A fisherman anchoring nearby reported seeing shapes in the fog, 5 silhouettes huddled together at the edge of the water. He thought they were lost hikers until they turned as one and faced him. He said their eyes reflected light like animals. He pulled anchor and rowed hard for the opposite shore. Even more chilling is what happened in 2017. A metal detector hobbyist exploring the area uncovered a student ID card buried in the dirt. It belonged to one of the missing women. The strange part? The card was pristine, unweathered, as if dropped that morning. Investigators examined it, but could not explain the condition. To this day, locals avoid camping on the North Rise. They say the laughter sometimes carries across the lake at night, thin and hollow, as if from underwater. Some believe the campers never left at all, that the lake claimed them, keeping their voices like trinkets. Others whisper they became part of something older, something that uses joy as bait. The story is retold every summer when new students arrive, eager for a thrill. Most dismiss it as a ghost tale. But if you ever pitch a tent near the water and hear a child giggle after midnight, don't ignore it. Don't answer. Don't walk to the shoreline, because not everyone who looks into the lake comes back. Story 3. The Thing Beneath. There are people who love the lake not for its surface, but for its depths. Divers, mostly. Those who crave the hush that comes when pressure squeezes ears and the light narrows into a single cone. In 2011, A local man named Victor Hahn decided to document the wreck of a passenger ferry that sank on the lake in the 1960s. The ferry, named the Starling, went down in a storm with no loss of life. All passengers made it to shore, but the ship slipped into the silt and never came up again. For decades, it was forgotten, just another casualty of the lake. Victor was a skilled diver with a taste for mystery. He strapped on a chest-mounted camera, hoping to film the Starling for a local history group. The dive log showed he entered the water at 4:17 p.m. The day was cloudy but calm. He descended slowly, narrating into his mic as he dropped past 15, 30, 50 feet. The water clouded with silt, then cleared, revealing the outline of metal ribs and scattered boards at T92 feet. Victor found the Starling. The footage shows benches draped in algae, a wheel frozen in place, and windows gaping like sockets. He spoke with awe. It was like stepping into an old photograph. For 20 minutes, the dive was smooth. Then the water began to stir. At first, he dismissed it as current. But the Starling rested in a cove with no strong inflows, and the water had been still. Minutes later, while filming the captain's cabin, Victor's breathing changed. You could hear him stutter, 2 shallow breaths followed by a pause. The mask camera turned sharply. The silt was rising in a plume, rolling upward like smoke. From within it, something large began to move. Shapes without edges. A bulk that suggested a body but shifted too much to be solid. Victor's voice trembled. There's something big. He switched to faster breathing. The chest camera jolted as he tried to back away. The plume expanded, swallowing the frame, and for long moments the footage showed nothing but shifting brown. Then, a glimpse, a pale arc, like the curve of bone or shell, sliding across the lens. Victor gasped, a raw noise cut short, and the chest camera caught his body convulsing as if something had brushed against him. His gauges spiked. He bolted upward too fast, instruments blaring. His dive partner on shore said Victor never surfaced. Search teams dragged the cove. They recovered one fin, a shredded glove, and the chest camera wedged in a branch near the bottom. No body, no mask. The footage circulated quietly among rescue divers before it leaked online. Most dismissed it as doctored, but locals who watched swore the sound on the tape, that bell-like thrum, was the same resonance they'd heard some nights vibrating through the water and up the dock posts. Like a tuning fork. In the years since, the wreck has become a forbidden point. Divers refuse to approach it. Boats avoid anchoring near. Yet fishermen claim that on foggy mornings they see bubbles breaking the surface in neat rows, like something breathing below. 2 teenagers once swore they saw the Starling itself rise halfway out of the water one night, a hulking outline just beneath the waves, before sliding back under as if on a leash. Their parents said it was whiskey, but the kids don't camp near the cove anymore. What gnaws at the imagination is the question Victor seemed about to answer. The footage ends with the camera pointed upward, fleeing. Just before the static, a shape enters the frame. A massive eye, lidless, reflecting the diver's light like a coin at the bottom of a well. For a blink it fills the screen, then vanishes. If the lake holds something alive that size, it is no ordinary fish. And if it is not alive, then it is something worse, a shape the water built itself, out of iron and memory and hunger. Locals now say the Starling did not simply sink. It was taken. The storm that night was only the cover. Some force beneath the water claimed the ferry, and now it holds it tethered like a lure, waiting for curious prey. If you walk near the cove after midnight, you may hear a sound like a rope straining or a bell tolling beneath your feet that if you do, leave. Do not look at the water, and never, ever dive. The thing beneath does not like to be seen. Asterisk lakes are supposed to be places of peace, water, stars, and silence. But every so often, silence is a warning. You've just heard 3 accounts from one lake. A girl who refuses to leave, campers swallowed without a trace, and something alive, or worse, moving in the dark below. That if these stories kept you on edge, then you're the kind of person who belongs here, in the dark corners of memory, legend, and fear. Make sure to subscribe, because the next story might be even closer to home than you think. Drop a comment about which of the 3 stories you dare to test: walking the shoreline, camping overnight, or diving deep. And if you wouldn't dare any of them, hit like right now, because you've got better sense than the people who did. Until next time, keep your lights on and don't trust the water when it whispers.